speakers, including Tony Benn, come along 4 o'clock, support the occupation of the old theatre and defend Gaza.
Are we unravelling flags?
Hi everybody, it's great to see so many of you here. Thank you very much for coming down. Before we hear from these guests who we're very grateful to have along, I'd just like to take a minute to explain what we've been up to. At the beginning of the year, 200 students and academics wrote a letter to Howard Davies asking him to condemn the war in Gaza and to condemn the bombing of the Islamic University, to provide material support for Palestinians and to divest from arms companies that arm Israel. He wrote back saying that he would look into various ways of providing support for Palestine, he wouldn't make a statement, and that he wouldn't seriously address the idea of divesting from companies that supply Israel. So we took the decision to occupy the theatre to put pressure to try and get these demands met.
We began at 3 o'clock yesterday after we passed a successful motion to condemn the Israeli massacre in Gaza.
We started planning this a while ago, and as we saw kind of how the massacre in Gaza got worse and worse, and we thought, you know, this is the worst thing that's happened in 40 years. And people started to say, if we'd been at LSE in 1967 in the Six-Day War, which is the last time that something like this had happened, would we really have sat back and just done, you know, vigils and just done meetings? And everyone kind of said, no, we hope we'd have done a lot more than that.
We have 6 demands. One is for the school to make a statement condemning the attacking of educational infrastructure in Gaza, including the Education Ministry, including the 2 UN schools and the Islamic University of Gaza. We are also looking for them to divest from firms directly involved in the military arming of Israel, including BAE, which we have evidence of our school investing in indirectly. Also, we want to see the school send all of our discarded or recycled books and computers to Gaza and the West Bank to help students under occupation. Likewise, we would like to see 5 scholarships for Palestinian students open up specifically to the LSE. And also we would like a fundraising day which the school would facilitate, in which every lecture and every seminar staff would have buckets, and those funds would go to medical aid for Palestinians.
May I congratulate you all for having organised this occupation. It's much more important than you may realise at the moment that when people get together and do something, that is when history is changed. If you just sit and grumble and divide and split ideologically, you don't get anywhere. But when you get together and make your own demands, then in the end, those demands are heard. I don't believe in protest. If you protest, you say, I've lost the battle and I don't like it. Well, I'm not in that business. I'm in the business of making demands.
We are witnessing a massacre in Gaza. And it's no good just calling for a ceasefire alone. There are things we can do. One thing we could do, for example, would be to provide a naval warship from Cyprus that would escort ships carrying humanitarian supplies to Gaza. Another thing we could do is use the RAF to fly into Gaza, United Nations personnel and humanitarian people, and also the world's media who are being kept out. Then we should certainly tell the Israeli ambassador to go and withdraw our ambassador from Israel. Then there are other things we could do. We should ask the media to give fair reporting, which they are not doing. That's why real news is so important.
The extent of what's going on, I mean, we'd always planned to do something big. SOAS offered us the perfect example, and I think that was fairly inspirational.
We discovered an exhibition in the Brunei Suite that was being hosted by the school and put on by the Ministry of Defence, celebrating the war effort of black and minority ethnics in the First and Second World War. We saw the exhibition as like a part of a recruitment drive, and that we feel that university space should not be used for military propaganda. We felt, if nothing else, it was at least insensitive to have this exhibition on at the same time as what's going on in Gaza. The cost of the Brunei Suite to book is £1,000 a day, so we've not been able to use this room. The Ministry of Defence had it for 5 days for free from the school. There was also the issue that the room itself has been privatised to a company called Sodexo, who provide the catering to the American military in Afghanistan and Abu Ghraib, and also run detention centres in England. We've had a campaign at SOAS for quite a few years now against Sodexo. The feeling was unanimous that we definitely wanted to do something about it. So we got locks and various provisions and things and locked the room up, barricaded ourselves in and set to work at dressing up the room, making people from the outside know what we were doing. We set up an email and a blog and took photos and sent out press releases to various groups and media outlets and that sort of thing.
There is no Palestinian state allowed. We should demand that Palestine be admitted to the United Nations. We should talk to Hamas ourselves and gradually build up a link that could lead to a lasting peace, because this blockade and the war was triggered when Israel broke the truce. There were no Hamas rockets from June to November until the Israelis killed 6 Palestinians. And of course, one of the promises Israel made in June was that they would lift the blockade, which they never did. So the responsibility of this is entirely Israeli.
Election, but I think they might be in that room, but it might go there anyway.
Come along upstairs and
We went into occupation this morning at 10 a.m. We're occupying a lecture theatre on the Strand campus. On the 18th of November 2008, King's College London awarded Shimon Peres with an honorary doctorate. Shimon Peres, the Israeli president, is considered by quite a few people to be a war criminal. And if we look back at what's been going on in Gaza since the 27th of December, many are describing it a massacre, and the UN has called for investigations into war crimes allegations. And this is supported by many human rights groups. Therefore, that's why we are especially disgruntled that our institution gave what many consider to be a war criminal an honorary doctorate. At a graduation ceremony, they were discussing all of the honorary doctorates that have been given out previously by King's, but Shimon Peres's was not mentioned. We sent a letter to the principal shortly after he was awarded this doctorate. In fact, the student body wasn't consulted beforehand, and we did receive a reply, but we just feel, in light of recent events, a greater action needed to be taken.
They have just decided recently to ban Arab parties from standing in the Israeli elections. They're using phosphorus weapons, they're killing children, they're bombing the United Nations. So this is an excellent way of doing it. It's part of a very big movement in Britain, all built on the opposition to the war against Iraq.
At 6:30 on Sunday morning, we were woken by the sound of police saying that they were bringing in dogs to search for explosives. And before they conducted their search, they changed their tone and left. And when I phoned the head of security at LSE to see what the hell was going on, he didn't know. He got in touch with the Westminster Metropolitan Police Branch and the chief inspector there, who said that not only had the police got the wrong theatre, but they were also 6 hours early. So make of that what you will. I don't think it's too conspiratorial to say that there was a little bit more than misinformation going on there. They've drafted in people from outside security to man the doors, not let anyone in. We've had rescheduled conferences. We've had global emails to 7,000 students sending out correspondence between allegedly us and the school, which we had no position in writing. So it's been very hectic.
Every little bit of support really counts at the moment. If trade union branches could could pass a motion supporting the occupation, if they could send that to Howard Davis, who's the director of LSE, his email is h.davis@lse.ac.uk.
Before you occupy, it's very important to have a specific kind of plan as to why you're doing it, and if the occupation is the most successful way of reaching whatever outcomes you want.
Focus on what you can do practically to help the Palestinian people. whether or not this is through scholarships, whether or not this is through twinning, whether or not this is through exchange of staff, exchange of resources. These are practical things. Exchange of lectures, you know. I mean, all you need is 2 computers and Skype, and you can transmit lectures to thousands of students in the West Bank, and vice versa.
Don't rush into it. There's no pressure to go under occupation, but it is a direct action that has worked.
Student actions can have a massive impact, you know, a domino effect, and I think this is what's starting to happen now.